Good evening. Welcome to Ward 5 Town Hall meeting. During the past few months, we've had a series of meetings on different subjects. First of all, getting the priorities of Ward 5, and then going into detail, getting folks with answers to be here and talk about those issues and have folks to answer questions. Tonight, we're a little out of sequences because of the rise in youth violence. And we wanted to take a moment to step back, invite the community, and to issue out one message. And that message is, it takes a village to raise a child. To that end, we have speakers here that are specialists with youth. We have packages of information for parents, and basically we may not have a whole host of parents here, but we're going to get the message out, and that is, parents, the village is here. They are reaching out their hands and they are asking one question: how can we help? And so that's why we're here tonight. We're here to help. Before we get started, I'd like to thank and identify the Reverend Boyd, the pastor of the Pearl Street AME Church, and he's going to deliver a prayer before we get started.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for Ward 5 and the council. We thank you for the members of Ward 5. We pray that your Holy Spirit would be the presiding energy within this meeting. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Again, we want to thank Pastor Boyd and the Pearl Street AME Church for hosting us here tonight and allowing us to assemble. Okay. Before we get into the program, there's one other thing that I would like to do, and that is I want to identify Dr. Fran Bridges. She's of the Pecan Tree Park Neighborhood Association, and just for a moment, she's going to speak to us about some of the efforts in our neighborhood and concerning crime.
Thank you, Councilman Hartley, recognizing the pastor, and just grateful to the Pearl Street family for always opening your doors. But as a neighborhood leader, recently I became the president of Pecan Tree Park Neighborhood Association. And we've been going to the cops meetings and we've been making calls here and there. But I just wanted to give a shout out to the Jackson Police Department and the Hinds County Sheriff Department, okay? At our last meeting, we meet the last Thursday of each month at 6:30. And we just want to thank them for hearing all of the concerns that we've been calling and texting, just trying to say, let's come together and work together as a community. And they've done an outstanding job with identifying and solving some of the issues in our community. So I invite other neighborhoods and I invite other residents of this city to lean on them, trust them that they want the community. They need the community. We need each other. So I just say applause, applause, applause to Sheriff Tyree in his absence, and for all of the policemen that are here and the ones that are in the street. But let's just work together to protect our children. Let's let parents know that we are the eyes and ears in the community that can help our city become a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bridges. Yes, let's give it up for Dr. Bridges. Has done a tremendous amount of work in the Pecan Tree Park. Actually, she is a volunteer Ward 5 coordinator. She helps me, and sometimes she wakes me, but she is always full of energy and always there to help. I wanted to acknowledge one thing, and that is, several meetings ago, we were talking about crime and some preventative measures. And we had Lieutenant Levine. I didn't know whether they call you professor or, okay. He's a professor at Jackson State in criminology. And he used to be he's a former JPD, but one of his specialties is community-oriented policing. And that is where the community is totally embraced with the police department, working on programs to rid that community of crime. In order for this to be successful, it requires the community leaders to stand up, and that's what Dr. Bridges was referring to. There have been successes. We challenged him during that meeting, said, okay, we're going to put you to the test. We hear your theories. We want to see it applied. And I can tell you, in my neighborhood, folks are gone, okay? Move in, you want to trash the neighborhood, you want to bring down our standard as we're trying to raise it. Okay, the Neighborhood Association president, working with Professor Levine here, we came up with some strategies, and we're going to continue putting those strategies all around Ward 5. So I just want to acknowledge him, and in addition to the Jackson Police Department as well. I don't want to leave them out. They do a lot. I mean, they're in the communities all the time. And when it takes a village, we're talking about the community, Hinds County, Jackson Police Department, Jackson Public Schools, nonprofits, churches, businesses. This is all, we're all together. We're going to solve these issues. So I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we put trust, but we verify. And we really had success. That's what we want. Did you want to say anything?
I just be remiss in his absence. Commander Looney, he worked hand in hand with me on that with JPD. We targeted this one location, and within 2 weeks, they were gone. But the key to community policing is improving two things: community police relations and community police communications. And in order to improve the communication, it was incumbent upon us as law enforcement to regain the trust of the community. You have to trust we're not going to come and knock on your door and say, were you the one to call? You're going to have to trust that we hear you and that we are going to keep you anonymous. I have an office out on Lakeland Drive, 9 Lakeland Drive. Anyone here that has I don't care if you're Ward 5 or wherever, if you have an issue and you need community police matters, my office, you got my number, you can call him. We'll meet anonymously out at my office on Lakeland Drive, 9 Lakeland Circle, I mean to say. And we'll meet out there and you remain anonymous. But don't do what one person did. We got success and she was so excited. And when we were out there making sure everything was cleaned up, she walked up to us and I was like, don't do that no more. If you call us anonymously and we're in your neighborhood, act like you don't know us. We won't be mad. Do not approach us. We see you. We might give you a wink or a nod, but don't approach us. But again, thank you for giving me Commander Looney. Oh, and we're not done. That was just the first phase. We're going to do the second phase, preventive, and we're going to do some more stuff for them. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And thank you, sir. Again, it takes a village. They are a vital part of this village. Look, we're West Jackson. We're South Jackson. We got a history. We got a history of doing things, and we're going to continue to make ourselves great over here, but it's going to take the village mentality. What he just referred to is a part of that, and that is making sure that a community is there and the community is safe. We have the best environment for our children in which to grow and to thrive. Okay, so now we're going to go on with the regular part of our program. And this is the format. I don't have an agenda tonight, which some folks probably think, oh, great, a lot of paperwork. The other meetings, yeah, we were full of agendas and all, but this time I want to let go of some of the format so we can have folks asking questions, okay? We can get relaxed. This is our community. This is our village. These are our children, and our children are making our future. Okay? They're part of our future. Before we get too far in the weeds, so I want to acknowledge several folks: elected official, Supervisor Calhoun. Okay, any other elected officials right now? Okay, all right, just want to acknowledge that. Perhaps we have some more coming in later. Our format for tonight, we're going to have each one of these panelists to come up and speak. They're going to spend anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, or they can sit there and speak. But you don't want to get up, huh? Okay, all right. But they're going to somewhat describe who they are and what they bring to the village, okay? And then the next person and so forth. After they're finished, we're going to have just open discussion. Any questions? Parents, if you have any questions. Folks in the village, if you have questions, how can you help? Then please, we're going to avail ourselves of the time and of these fine folks here. We would ask that you walk over to the microphone when you're asking your questions. This is being recorded by Zoom, and we want to make sure we save it and we can forward it out to anyone that want to see it later. Okay? So, with that said, we shall start, if you don't mind. I'd start with Dr. Timothy Norris, Chief Executive Director of DMN Behavior and Counseling Group. He's named his agency in honor of his deceased brother, Donald M. Norris, who was murdered in 2008 by gun violence. Dr. Norris is also the owner of Mom's Dream Kitchen, formerly known as Colin's Dream Kitchen. Oh, good food there. Okay. And started by his mom over 3 decades ago. Dr. Norris was born in Jackson, Mississippi. His experience encompasses working with youth that are delinquent, psychotherapy. His specialty is also family couples counseling, group therapy, teaching, and parent training. Okay. He is a licensed professional counselor, national certified grief counselor, national certified, it's a licensed psychometrist. Okay, there. Well, with a master's degree in sociology from Jackson State, a specialist degree in education psychometry. Okay, got that right that time. And a doctorate in professional counseling from Mississippi College. Since the death of his brother, Dr. Norris has worked extensively with youth in the community on conflict resolution, making good decisions, friendship, family, and death. Please, let's give it up for Dr. Timothy A. Norris. Yeah.
So I started my agency a couple of years ago because of my brother's death. It was pretty hard for me and my family, and so we decided, or I decided to. I was already in counseling. I was already licensed, so I decided to go ahead and start this agency. Once I started working with mainly adults, but then quickly started I noticed, is it on? Huh? We good? Okay, all right. I thought I was talking good. Okay, well, I guess not. I noticed that when the parents are involved, they start seeing things that they are doing wrong, and they start making these corrections because we actually call them out. I don't just, they send them to me and they tell me all the things that the kids are doing, but of course they never say what they're doing. And so we get in these meetings and these sessions, and the kids start calling the parents out. Now they're looking at themselves a little funny. So that's basically what I do in my agency. I work with a lot of youth. I get a lot of referrals from the school districts and from just from word of mouth, from what I do every day. And a lot of people knew my family, so they know how to reach me. Ms. Fuller, she actually works in my agency as well, and she does a lot of things in the community with the youth. And I'll kind of let her tell you, since Councilman only gave me 5 minutes, so I'll let her tell you, I'll let her tell you some of the things that she does, and a little bit about her first.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kimberly Fuller. I work along with Dr. Norris and his agents as a therapist. I actually have been working as a mental health therapist in the mental health field for 28 years. I have worked in a variety of settings, inpatient, outpatient in the community like he's talking about, in the juvenile system. I do a little training with staff on how to intervene and awareness and parenting, just things to try to help people understand mental health and understand what to look for. I think a lot of what's going on is a lack of awareness about mental health. A lot of time we look at the behavior instead of trying to figure what's causing the behavior. Oh, excuse me. And what I try to do in my training is to teach on, let's look at what the behavior coming from. Every behavior is thirsty for something. And either we're going to try to quench that thirst with something positive, or they're going to go with something negative. And we can look at the statistics now, the negative is taking over. So I want to try to find ways that we can get that village back and work as a team, and everybody try to help the families and get together with the people that's not aware. We in the school system trying to be assistant to the teachers, because the teachers are to the educators. They're not there to understand why this one acting out and you have this other one trying to learn. So we go in the school system to try to assist them and help them. And maybe if we all can get together and come up with a solution, and people come out and be more eager to find out and stop the embarrassment. A lot of it too is the embarrassment, the stigma, the label of mental illness, and it's making us run from getting the necessary treatment. And I think that's enough. I'll leave it open for questions after.
We're gonna have plenty of time here. Okay, that's that for you. One of the things I want to point out, this meeting is being recorded on Zoom, and for folks out there on Zoom, please type in your questions and make sure that we can get them to our panel here. Okay, is that okay? Okay, for the folks, that is a big difference. For the folks that are out there on Zoom, please, we ask that you type in your questions so we can get them to the panelists here as well. The other thing, and she's correct, that stigma, especially as African Americans and especially among the male population. And I'm sure that I'm not going to steal their thunder, but it is a problem. We need to start acknowledging some of our issues that we sometimes not even aware that can be bringing us down. And once we acknowledge it, we seek out remedies for it. Next.
And he was saying about acknowledgement, but the biggest issue a lot of times I've seen is that, you know, our community, we are afraid. We have this stigma, hey, I'm a macho man. I don't, you know, I'm not going to seek help. So what we do is we decide we're going to go get high, we're going to go drink, we're going to do everything else besides seeking help for our mental illness. And that's a big problem. That's why you see a lot of people in this community that's walking around, they, you know, strung out on something because something else happened. Something triggered this. They didn't just wake up and say, hey, I want to be an alcoholic, I want to be a drug addict. Something transpired to cause them to do what they're doing.
Okay, next I'd like to introduce Ms. Ingrid Cloy. She holds a bachelor's degree in English and mass communications with 2 master's degrees in social work and criminal justice and correctional services. She works as an advocate and community organizer, utilizing a collective impact model to engage stakeholders from all sections to work collaboratively to transform the lives of families and children living in underserved communities. Okay, Ms. Cloy is a former Deputy Director of the Mississippi Department of Human Services, formerly a former Director of Mississippi Center for Excellence, a former Deputy Director for Mississippi Families for Kids, and former Director of Marketing for WLBT. Great. Ms. Cloy is a youth engagement specialist who have collaborated with the National Alliance of Mental Illness in Mississippi, the Mississippi Department of Mental Health, and the Annie E. Casey Foundation to develop statewide youth leadership councils where youth and youth adult are trained to use their collective voices to advocate for policy and practice changes and resources and services for themselves. Her youth leadership training has been implemented in 3 Jackson public schools, high schools, and the Mississippi Department of Corrections Youth Offenders Unit. I'd like to introduce you. Let's give it up for Ms. Cloy, Ms. Ingrid Cloy.
I think you can hear me? All right. Again, I'm Ingrid Cloy, and I'm a youth engagement specialist. What I do is I work with agencies, nonprofits, state agencies, whomever, to help them understand the need to work with young people. Okay, so to develop youth and young adult partnerships. I do have an extensive marketing background, but I retired from television, which I loved, because my husband and I, at the time, adopted a 14 and 10-year-old out of foster care. And through the need to advocate for services for those 2 young people, what I learned was that there is so much that young people really need. So I ended up retiring from television and started a journey initially in criminal justice and then later in social work. So the last time I spoke, I actually gave some statistics, and I want to share those with you guys today. So Measure for America, which is a social science research group, states in their data that in Hinds County, there are 4,700 young people who are disconnected from employment and education. So research indicates that if children are young people, youth and young adults are disconnected from employment and education, they are more likely to get into some antisocial behavior, right? So when I use the number 4,700, that is 5 Jackson public or whatever high schools. So in Hinds County alone, there are 5 high schools worth full of children that they're out on the streets connected to nothing. So I do a lot around trying to help young people connect to either education and employment or either of the 2, okay? So with that number of young people, and that's 16 to 24-year-olds, so with that number of young people, and I'm not saying that they're all are getting in trouble, but even if a third of them were getting in trouble in Hinds County, that's a lot of young people. So I can tell you that the police are doing their job. Police has a specific role. They've got to maintain order, they arrest, and community policing, definitely. But when I say that we've got a lot of young people who are getting into trouble because they have nothing else to do, you have to understand that it's going to take more than just the police to solve this issue. It's going to be important that we engage in a collective impact model, and that's where agencies and organizations, school systems, faith-based organizations all come together to collectively work in underserved communities to alleviate some of the strain and stress of that. Before I came here, I was at Hines Community College in Utica talking to an Upward Bound group around the mental health topic. And Dr. Norris is absolutely true. Mental health is one of the biggest issues that our community as well as young people are dealing with right now. And one of the things that those young people told us today is that it's very difficult to talk to adults because adults really don't understand the issues that they're faced with. And when they try to explain those issues, what we tell them is, you're not going to work every day. You're not paying bills. You shouldn't have any issues. All you have to do is go to work, go to school, So we're downplaying the issues when they're trying to tell us what's going on when the behavior isn't as bad, right? And I don't say that, I don't blame anybody for what's happening. I blame all of us. I don't blame one specific person. I blame all of us because we're going to have to work collectively to create the conditions in which young people can be productive. Not successful, but productive. Success is relative. It's based on what your concept of success is. But we really definitely want them to become productive citizens.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cloy. Imagine, if you would, just go with me a minute, a village. Villages come together, they have a certain location, geographical boundary. You have different folks in the village. In that village, you have someone that say if this is a obscure village, you have someone that go gets the water. Someone that's responsible for the food. Someone that's responsible for the education. Someone that's responsible for governing different things. Someone that's responsible for policing the village. We're all related. And there's no, as she said, there's no one to point a finger to. This is our village, and it's up to us in order to make our children realize their fullest potential. Provide a safe space for them, watch them skip and jump and just and watch them grow. It's up to the entire village to make that happen. I'm pleased she mentioned that about JPD. No, they don't run the village. They do their best to try to keep up. And they're just one factor in it. Okay, next, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Benny Foster. He's a native of Jackson, Mississippi, former student athlete who understands the value of mentorship. He's a husband, friend, and business partner to his lovely wife, Lisa, the father to their family of 6 wonderful children, and serve as a mentor and coach to countless other youth and young adults throughout his journey. Benny earned his BS in early childhood education from Jackson State University and his master's in education administration. Teacher leadership from Strayer University. He moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 1996 and was greatly involved with youth intervention, prevention, mentorship, leadership programs for over 32 years. His life was divinely interrupted in the summer of 2021 when he became more and more aware of the crime and violence rate in Jackson, Mississippi. Eventually, he was compelled to come back home to Jackson in late December of 2021 to share his experience and assist others and serve others. This led him to launch Open House Vision nonprofit Benny works daily in the mission to put up a stop to the senseless crime, violence, and homicides through providing resources, alternatives, and emotional support to our youth, young adults, and family. Again, he's also the founder of Visionaire Corporation, which create opportunities for our youth and young adults to earn while they learn in an effort to provide solutions and create generational wealth and well-being. He believes we all play a part in being the solution and that everyone should do their best to play their part. Let's give it up for Mr. Benny Foster.
Salute.
Hold the microphone.
I greet you with salute because it's a code of ethics that we have with the young men that we deal with mainly. We deal with young women as well. I've been following along on Zoom, and so I'm pretty much up to par, and everyone has been wonderful in what we're speaking and what we're saying about the solution, and I love it. Mr. Hartley, I want to thank you, Councilman Hartley, for having me and all the other esteemed people here on the panel. I'll be very brief. He read most of what you needed to know about me, but let me tell you what we're doing in the last 6 months of me coming back to Jackson, Mississippi. When I first came back, I wanted to tell everybody that I thought was somebody about how we can make this work. And I realized that some people are just living out of survivorship. They have survived it this long. It has not hit their house. And a lot of people have kind of put the church finger up and tipped out on trying to be a part of the solution. And first I was angry, first I was upset, but then I realized, well, I thought I was coming to share, but God was like, no, you coming to stay. And the reason I knew that he was bringing me to stay was because in the last 6 months, over 100 acres of land has been donated out in Utica for us to utilize for camping, fishing, horseback riding. I have a facility 195 and now 199 Raymond Road, which has been opened up for me to utilize as office space for our for-profit Visionaires Corp., which as of 2 weeks ago, we began to employ 6 young men ages 16 up to 31 years old, and they're earning while they're learning trades, skills, and agriculture. We also are preparing to take these kids on a fishing trip as early as tomorrow to speak to another group of young men, because we've had those life skill moments where each and every young man that's on that site with us has appreciated us and said, you saved my life, or I was in a crisis. Thank you for giving me, hear this word, everybody, an opportunity. That's all they looking for. All they looking for is, like she said, they sitting at home doing nothing. And so if we give them an opportunity and we offer the resources to them, those young men and those young women that are the squeaky wheel, those are our leaders. Those are the ones that just don't know how to lead. So if we put the proper resources in front of them, and I want you to know that each and every one of you that are listening at home, each and every one of you that is in this crowd, you may know how to sew. And you'll never believe how many young ladies want to sew or young men want to sew until you put them in front of a sewing machine. All of these young men, I saw one of them today showing another one how to read the tape measure. I caught it on video, him trying to show the other one how to read the tape measure. And it was a moment that made me tear up because they all have shared their own little story about how the cousin has died, the brother has died, the little brother in jail. We're all connected, guys. We all connected. So I'm here to serve not just an open house vision, but with any organization, any individual that would like to be a part of the solution instead of just talking about it. Again, please see me. I have flyers, and I love this, Mr. Hartley. I appreciate it. I'm hearing a lot of solutions coming forth from this meeting.
And that is what this meeting is all about. It's about reaching out to parents, community members, and saying, hey, look, we have issues, but we have an abundance of resources. And this is the beginning. Next month, I want to have a focus group with just young individuals where we go directly to them, try to get them in a space where they can just really open up and help as well. Okay, now we're going to go into some discussions, panel discussions. And if you have some questions, please feel free to come right up, and we'll be glad to hand the microphone to one of our panelists. So where are we going to start? Okay, I think we have some from our Zoom. Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. Welcome out, everyone. My name is Larry Nelson Sr. I'm the president of Victims of Violent Crimes. My son was murdered 4th of July 2007, and we started our organization in 2008. Now, when we got started, we had about 34 members. Now we had 1,274. That's how many murders has happened since 2007. The question was asked, which is the most horrific? Well, in 2008, I remember your brother's case. But in 2008, do you remember Yaska Yellow Hoskins, the young lady that was set on fire on Mill Street? I can tell you every case that has happened in the city of Jackson since my son was murdered, and I haven't seen no changes. It has gotten worse and worse. So when you address the issues that we're dealing with today, look back and see what changes we need to make as victims, okay? Not as panelists, not as police officers, not as politicians, not as ministers, but as victims. What I have seen happen is, I have seen organizations come up as to where we make people leaders because we're desperate. And then those leaders kill off each other. And our young people are going like, wow, man, I had so much respect for Polio. I had so much respect for Robert, but they dead. One is in the grave, and others in jail. But we made them leaders because we're desperate. You don't know the history of the crime. And if you don't know the history of the crime, you can't talk about the solutions. Because both people have to get together, both parties. But young brother, I want you to address your brother's case, what has happened. And as the president of Victim of Violent Crime, we're everywhere. We're here for everyone whenever we're needed. God bless you all. Have a good night.
Thank you for that. My brother's case, my brother's case is basically still open. It's still an unsolved murder. That was 2008, and we're no closer now than we were then. So, and as far as what I've done is what I do now. I work with youth, you know, trying to teach them conflict resolution, trying to teach them it's not about pulling a gun, because it affects not just the person that's dead, everybody. It affects everybody. Every day I have to deal with it. My mom, I watch her deal with it constantly. You know, so all I can do is just continue to plant the seed myself. I can't bring them back. I wish I could, but you know, I just constantly try to plant the seed, and hopefully, you know, I make a difference.
Thank you. One question I have for you is this. As a city councilman, I probably shouldn't do this, but when I read about another violent incident, I immediately look for the street, because is it one of mine? And I ask that question. And I can imagine the folks that are in charge of covering the entire city, because we take it, it's close to us. So one of the things I do is try to go and talk to the family. My question is this. You know, I'm talking to the mother of a 14-year-old that was killed. What do I say? At what point I can't relate? I can't ask the question of why this happened, why we have senseless murders. The only thing I can do is, I mean, for a politician to have no words, man, that doesn't happen too often. But if you ever been in that situation, the only thing you can do is wrap your arm around them and ask them, I'm here if you need anything. Words don't come. That's why it takes us to make sure our village is safe, that we're looking out for each other's children as well as our own. We have to set a different standard. And I'm not sure if that's a rhetorical question at all, or what, or that's a mental health thing that I need to go through.
Well,
but it's a tough one.
Well, honestly, that's all you can do. All you can do is really just wrap your arms around them and just be there. Because there are no words. There's no magic pill. You just have to just be there. And as long as they know that somebody's there, you feel a little better. It doesn't take the pain away, no. But at least it's just to know that someone's there.
And if it's one of your neighbors, you may want to go in after a month or two or whatever, go back and check on them.
Yes.
Follow up. Because a lot of times that's, a lot of the things, activity has died down. They're in another place. Just go there. Hey, how you doing? Again, we are each other's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. We have the responsibility of all the folks in our community, in our village. Our children in our village can't be walking through our village with automatic weapons. We want them to reach their full potential. We want to protect the other children. And to do that, we have to be invested in every one of them. West Jackson, yeah, sometimes, we look a little gruff over here. But, I go face to face with folks all the time, man. They're the sweetest people you can ever imagine. And they may look a little tough on the outside, but inside, it's a whole different story. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad you said what you said about, and you said about being there. I took a brief time when I was getting my license. Believe it or not, that's one of the hardest folks I ever did. And guess what I found out? A lot of things that African Americans traditionally do when somebody suffers violent crime is wrong. We say, what? Ain't a better place. I don't like to be here. We learned those are the wrong things to say. The best thing to say is, I'm here for you. What can I do for you? And keep it simple. Keep it simple, because people grieve different. And in our efforts to try to be sympathetic, sometimes we put pressure because we've been taught that's what we're supposed to do. So I'm glad you said that. So we do. That's why these individuals here are so important, because these are the professionals that we can send our kids to. Because sometimes if you're not trained in that, you think just because you're a parent don't make you an expert at everything. Parents, we like to feel we're expert at everything. But that's why I'm glad he said what he said, because sometimes when you talk to the kids, they tell you the truth. I was at a youth summit at Vineyard Church on Rainy Road, and it was a panel of just students. And they had us over there. But let me tell you, every one of those students that spoke cried. They talked about a loss of a friend. And you know what they said when they came to the adults? And this is going to hit you. They felt that we as adults discount them and dismiss them while they were grieving. And so they turned to guess who else? The streets, because guess what? Those individuals out there that want to do our kids harm, they listen more than we do. So I'm glad you guys are here speaking on that, and I'm just sitting here amazed that, man, that forum, they're saying the same thing. You said the same thing the kids say. Talk to your kids, not at your kids. Listen to them. Sometimes it might be painful to hear what they're saying about you. And then you want to call the police on them. And guess what? Now they don't trust who? Don't trust the police. No, don't trust the police. So we cannot, and I'm going to say this again, and I'll stand on this, out of 32 years of law enforcement, we cannot police our way out of this without you. And I'm going to sit down with this. There's a saying, I'm a criminologist, there's a saying that says, law enforcement only get involved when other social institutions fail. And you know what those three primary social institutions that fail first? Family, church, and school.
Yes. If you would, make your way to the microphone, please. I'm sorry, did you have a response?
Yes, I wanted.
Go ahead, ma'am. Make your way on that.
Quickly respond. And I've lost a child, not to violence, but when I say a parent never recovers from losing a child, never. 23 years ago, still hadn't recovered from losing a child to illness. And we hear about the murder rate, violent crimes committed by young people. But did you know that suicide is the second leading cause of death for youth and young adults? So although, you know, it's tragic to see what's happening with young people as it relates to them committing crimes, you all are not hearing about the numbers of young people who are actually killing themselves. So the death rate of young people collectively is much greater than what we hear. The television does not talk about the suicides that young people are committing. My daughter knows of two people, and she's just turned 18, but one of her close friends committed suicide at 15. I have a friend whose son committed suicide at 15. All this is in the Jackson metro area. Another co-worker, her son's close friend committed suicide at 15. And the numbers, anybody in here knows someone whose child committed suicide? Those collectively, the numbers of young people who are dying, it's greater than the crime rate. It really is. UMC did some research some years ago, and they were doing research on self-harm. They actually thought that as it relates to the self-harm, it would be around white teenage girls. And they went through several school systems throughout the state. The number one demographic that engaged in self-harm was African American boys. And that's in the state of Mississippi. So there are a lot of young men who are committing violence against other people, but the numbers of them that are committing violence against themselves, those numbers are high too. Okay? So committing violence against yourself is hitting yourself in the face, beating your own body. We've got young ladies in the African American community who are cutting themselves. So collectively, when you look at the data, our children are in crisis. Teenagers, young people, youth and young adults, they're in crisis. And the last thing I'll say is that COVID has really created an even more dire situation for them. Because for a year and a half, our children were disconnected from school. Okay? So school helps us to manage our children. Their discipline, teaches them discipline, how to sit and keep things in order, gives them something to do. It's where they socialize. And that, due to COVID, was taken away. So we've had more young people who were not supervised, who had no structure and no order, depending on each other for that. And the adolescent brain it's an interesting thing. It is an interesting thing. The adolescent brain really doesn't stop developing until age 24. And that's when you'll see better decision making, right? I remember hearing Tony Dungy saying that I want to say his son committed suicide. And he was talking about that, and he said his daughter told him that if his son could have just held on until he was 21, because after 21, the adolescent brain starts to settle in a little bit, you're less impulsive, but 24 is actually when the adolescent brain really does, kick in, it's finished developing, and you see better decision making.
Okay. And thank you for that. And after our question here, perhaps one of you can entertain a question about how do we deal with it, collateral damage, because when one child, someone at school that you knew, and now all of a sudden they're gone, that has to be collateral damage in our village to the other children. So, ma'am, if you would, please.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I just want to say that I'm so happy that we are having more meetings like this. I had to get to this age to really become more active as far as wanting to know the people that we can get in contact with when we have different situations. And the more we have these type of meetings where we meet the people that we would really have to get in contact with for our issues, it makes it a lot more comfortable. I'm a grandmother of 6 boys and the great-grandmother of 6 boys. And I really have a lot of blood in this game. So, you know, I see all these things happen to these young men, and I want to do something, do my part to be a help to the situation in any way I can. And I just come to the realization that on my street, in my area where I'm at, I'll do what I can in that area. I can't save everybody, but if we got soldiers, I say, in every neighborhood, police in their particular area, we can be a help to the police. So I want to make sure and challenge everybody else to get out here to these meetings and meet the people that are in the trenches trying to make changes in this city. Because we need the village, just like you say. So I just, like I said, I just hope I see more of this. And this is my first time meeting you personally, Mr. Hartley. And it's like people talk as far as what's going on in the community, but we need to come out and meet our leaders, meet the people that are able to make changes. And that's the thing I'm happy about this evening.
Thank you so much for those comments. Yes, thank you. And she's absolutely correct. You might say, well, I can't do this, I'm no expert. Well, we have people you can call, we have resources, we have plenty of activities, but the main thing is do what you do in your community. That's the main thing. You don't have to become a counselor or whatever. Take a little courage. Go across the street, knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, I'm here. We need to connect this community back. This village got to wrap our arms around each other, and then we can move forward. Yeah, no finger pointing if we're going to move forward. We all in this thing together. So if you see a kid on the street or whatever, that's yours too. That's all of ours. And all of ours have something we can help with in the process. Yes, sir. Question?
I'm coming from, I hear a lot about suicide, mental illness, school, gun, drugs, poverty, prisons, and teenage pregnancy, police. I'm coming in the aspect of families. I think that is what's lacking, and in particular, fathers not being there. Amen. And I talk to a lot of young brothers all the time about being there for the children. But it goes deeper than that for me, and I won't go into my personal situation, but for a father that wants to be there, and that tries to be there, and he goes to court to try to get custody, or at least partial custody, and he has the challenges of the courts not letting that happen, and being alienated from his children, from the beef of whatever happened between parents. It's supposed to be about the children. However, there's a lot of fathers being alienated that want to be there. And for those fathers, I mean, people say go to court, but a lot of times, I mean, I don't know if we have any lawyers or anybody in here, but go on Thursday. It's a tragic sight. Just go and sit and look at the trials, not the trial, but the family court hearings. It is tragic. And so, I mean, it's hard to speak on what the fathers like myself and others that want to be part of it, what we can do for our own children, well as others, you know. So if somebody can address that. Oh, I want to say this also. I'm an artist in the city, and I'm a part of this grant called Live, Impact, and Create. And my project is dealing with gun violence. And I want to get children that have experienced these things to work on the project with me. And I would love for some of you all to come in and ask me work on these projects to discuss the views of how you see it from your standpoint, so they can hear it as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Ms. Patty Patterson is one of my deputy directors, deputy clerks in the back. If you would, get this information so that we can add this to a roster of folks with either a program or with specialized service. Did you have a comment?
Salute again. And I don't know if I properly explained why we say salute. You know, we've been taught as young bulls or youngins in the street that when we look at other guys that we look them up and down, and we don't know if we gotta defend ourselves if we in the wrong hood. But I teach the young men that when you see another man, you say salute, because each man has been through some of what you've gone through. So there are bits and pieces, and I want to be brief as possible because we could never speak about this in just one meeting. You know, it is so big. Someone told me when I first got here, like I have a flyer, and I definitely want to give everyone before I run out. I have like 20 things on this flyer that if I can't do, I'm directly connected to somebody that can. And one young lady said to me, "You trying to do too much." I say, "Ma'am, if I was doing enough, God wouldn't have called me from Miami, Florida to come down here and try to be a part of the solution as well." And notice I keep saying a part of the solution. We're not doing enough. And so I'm going to say some key words to you guys that I feel strongly through trial and error as well as experience that we need to do those things. The first word is mentorship. Mentorship means you are a father, you are a mother to somebody else's child. And again, when I say we have this survivor syndrome, we are afraid to get involved. When I mean get involved, I mean we want to steer clear of the violence. We don't want to be on the news. We don't want to look on the news one night and hear one of our nephew's name, one of our son's name, our daughter's name. So we are living in a mindset of survivorship. It has not hit my heart. And those that have had the tragic situation of their child or their parent or someone being killed, they're living in trauma. It is a form of societal PTSD that they're living in because it's like a war zone. And when you think of someone that has been through PTSD, guys, they can't sleep, they can't eat, they're nervous, they're paranoid. And so that's what's going on with our kids. That's why every child cried on that panel, because they're living in fear. It's like they're living in a war zone. So that first word is mentorship. You can mentor in baking cookies. You can mentor in doing art. You can mentor in flag football. You can mentor in planting a garden. Whatever you love doing, see how many kids are interested in what you're doing and be a mentor. The second word is apprenticeship. We got away from that, guys. We got away from apprenticeships that show young people at an early age that are 15, 16, bored with the traditional school system, that there are some things out here. Listen, HVAC makes over 6 figures. Plumbing makes over 6 figures. Construction makes over 6 figures. I got more degrees than a thermometer, and I got people that are painting houses making more money than I can shake a stick at. And so we have to understand that those trades and skills will always be viable. So even if they're going to earn while they learn, like they're doing with some of our projects, put a paintbrush in a young man's hand, you'll be surprised. Okay? And the last one is internships. Internships, we got away from them. You notice that all of them end in ship. You don't put one person on a ship, guys. There's a bunch of people on the ship. So when we keep talking about a village, you got to understand that, like he said, one person may do this, one person may do that. Like I want to say the young lady. Like the young lady said right here, she's going to handle her part of the village. That's part of the solution. This is part of whatever you may make balloon characters. You'll be surprised on how many kids you'll grab their attention by saying, "I'm going to do balloons this weekend on Saturday." Those kids will go home every day. Their mom and dad tell them to go home and clean their room. If they want to go to the balloon character on Saturday, they will go home and do everything that a parent wants them to do just so they can get there to see those balloons being made. So we have to now think individually as well as an organization. What can I do that can make a young person excited, watch this, about living? Because some of them ready to die because they don't have a hope. They don't have a hope for tomorrow. So if we can give them little tidbits, that's when we can have those conversations with them and find out what's really going on the inside with them, because they have a mask up and they have a wall up. And the only way you get that down, just like if I was speaking to this young lady right here in front of me and she has had a traumatic experience, until she learns to trust me, she's not going to trust me with those things on why she have those insecurities and those fears. And this is what's going on with our young people. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't know, but I think we need to give it up for that comment, please. Okay? And ma'am, I'm going to ask you to say it, but before you say that, and I appreciate Mr. Foster saying that, on my street, I've been cutting grass to keep the neighborhood and to be an example. I think what I'm going to do is get me an old lawnmower and give it to that neighbor's kid and show him how to use it and said, okay, now you can make money all summer long, okay? So that's the kind of stuff we have to come up with something. We have to do something. So please go ahead, ma'am. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mother Margaret Curry, and I live over here in Sybil and Glen subdivision. And I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And my granddaughter, one of them, she tried to commit suicide, but we caught her. Now she is in this camp. This young man, he is doing great with these children down there. It's in Mark 51, boot camp. He said it's boot camp, learning children to be children again. And Dwayne Owens, he is running this down there in Mark 51. It is 30, he has 30 children down there. I even cook for those children sometimes when I'm able to do it. I take them big pans of food. And they be so glad to see me. If it ain't me, it's my daughter or it's a friend of mine. We all gather around those children because I have 3 grandchildren in there. And they are having a time. The one that tried to hurt herself, she has changed. She was so cruel to me, to her mama, to her grandmama. And since she's been down there in boot camp with Owens, she has did a 360. She says, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. But before that, she would say, no, That was her way of talking to you. So, I mean, I understand about raising children because I raised 5 of them on my own. And all of them is good. And one of them was a policeman, Foster. And she's sweet, too. Yes, I'm Foster's mother. Yeah, I'm Foster's mother. That's my baby. That's my baby child. And I just love for what she's doing now. And she's on it, working with the children, but she's a correction officer now. And I just sit back and I look and she tell me, Mama, she say, these children, I'm having a hard time. I said, Michelle, I said, you know, you was raised and you know how to raise children. And so if we could all, some of us, I don't know who all, he needs help down there with those children. He needs food and everything to go down there. Mark 51, right there. It's a, you know, they'd have the bingo hall and Terry Road.
Okay, Mark 51.
Yeah, Mark 51, and he needs help with those children.
Okay.
And I do all I can, but I'm on a cane, and it's not too much I can do, but I do what I can.
Yes, ma'am. And that's all we need.
Yes.
That's all we need.
That's all
If
we
everyone in
need.
the village can do a little bit,
Just a little
we'll
bit.
get it done.
Pull those children together, and those children love everybody. He has got, and my little grandbaby, he's 4. He has sisters. They call him Sergeant Foster. He just blow that pussy, those children do just what he said to do. He's 4. He's 4.
We're sergeant in training.
Sergeant in training.
Okay, and quick, let's have a quick quiz.
Excuse me,
Yes,
but
go
I
ahead.
did have a granddaughter was murdered. She was murdered in 2018 by her boyfriend. Dorsey Rich.
Her name was Doris Riggs. Her mama's name was Cherie Riggs. I don't think her mama could handle the situation real good. She's gone too. That's my daughter. She was 56. And so, I mean, I've gone through all of it. I've gone through all of it, but God is good to me. For me to be 80, God is good to me. And I thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the comment. Quick quiz before Miss Angie. Oh, please come on up. Come on up. Quick quiz. What never faileth? In the Bible, Scripture says something never faileth. Love, charity. There's a whole lot we don't know, but there is something in us that we do have. And I've been told that love, charity never faileth. And I think that's where you're going to, when we ask these questions, how do we deal with it? How do we interact? Love never faileth. And then there's another one, scripture that says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he shall not depart from it. Train them up. And that training not only comes from what you say, but what they see. Okay? So as the village, we got to turn this thing around. JPD, we can have all the uniforms in the world. That ain't going to do it. If the village is not cooperating, if the village is not one, if the village is not whole, and we got to stop creating trauma and spreading trauma. Before we go to our next speaker, Ann, I want to just acknowledge Senator Norwood has joined us in the very back, member of Hemingway Circle area and our state senator. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Ms. Ann.
Good evening to my fellow neighbors and Councilman Hartley. I want to say that we do appreciate all that you do for us. And these meetings are very good. It's helping us to learn each other and what problems are, because all our problems are common in all of our neighborhoods. And I just want to say a big thank you to the Jackson Police Department and some federal agencies and the Hinds County Sheriff Department for taking care of our neighborhood. I want to just briefly say we had a huge problem in our neighborhood. And I talked with everybody that would listen to me. And we had a drug house. And we had more cars coming in and out of the neighborhood from Madison and Rankin County. And the majority of them coming in to buy drugs were white. Mm-hmm. And we're placing all of this blame on black people, but we need to place it on people. Mm-hmm. This is a people problem, mm-hmm. Not a black problem, not a white problem. It's a people problem. Right. And we've had just enormous, we can sit on our porch or clean the street. Those people driving in to buy drugs didn't care. It was as if they were going to the Memorial Stadium to a football game. And on weekends, you could barely get off your street for the traffic. Mm-hmm. But thank you, JPD, for taking the lead, and you all bringing in your counterparts to help. We are 99.9% rid of that problem. The other thing I want to say, and I'm going to sit down, the other thing I want to say is every crime that's committed is not by a person with mental issues. Now, mental issues is real, and yes, a lot of our children are dealing with it, but it is not all times children with mental issues or adults with mental issues committing crimes. And when we acknowledge that, and we stop buying into the rhetoric that everything is a mental issue problem, we can deal with the problem. And that's where we need to start, and we need to be real about it. And that's the only way we can clean up neighborhoods. Now, that problem we had in our neighborhood, I talked to the young men. I would get out and make them clean up the mess that they would throw trash on the street. I would say, come on, we gotta clean this up. We don't do this over here. But what I didn't do, I didn't talk down to any of them. I friended all of them. And they were very respectful of me and the adults on my street because we friended them. We talked to them. Now, we didn't make a dent in many of them, but we made a dent in a few. But what I want to see more of is this and all sides of what's causing these crimes in the area. Now, West Jackson used to be one of the prettiest places to live. We can make that happen again. But now, the city government has to do its part. West Jackson, the city used to keep our streets mowed, used to keep our creek cleaned out. We have trees in the creek now because nobody cleaned it out. I'm just saying the administration has to do its part in order to clean up and stop people from saying West Jackson is a dump, West Jackson is a hellhole. We have to change that image and go back to being what we used to be. Because the many of us that are living in West Jackson, as I've said in many meetings, we're here because we want to be in West Jackson.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We could live anywhere else we want to live. But we're here because we want to live here. We just need help from the administration, and our councilman does all that he can do to help us, and I want to continue to say that. But we need law enforcement involved. We need law enforcement visible. Now, some days, some weeks, and some months, I can go forever and not see a policeman. But it's a reason. They're shorthanded. So they got to work the worst areas first, and we understand that. But we have to say, when we call, please come because we need you.
Yes.
And I'm very interested in us in this area solving crimes and moving the criminals to where they need to be.
Absolutely.
And we need them out of West Jackson.
Absolutely.
And we need them out of neighborhoods.
Yes.
Now, we have corporations buying up houses in neighborhoods, and they are moving in the worst criminals in the world in the neighborhoods.
Right.
Now, we talking about holding the parents accountable. We got to hold these corporations accountable.
And the adults, yeah.
They need to get to know the neighborhood. But now, I will tell you, reading many articles, this is just not happening in Jackson, where the corporations are buying up houses and then moving the worst of the worst into those neighborhoods. It's happening all over the United States. But we're interested in Jackson.
Right.
And we want something done with those corporations doing this to our neighborhoods.
And you said a lot. It's a lot to respond to there. Okay.
I'm going to sit down.
Okay.
But I'm very interested in crime being solved.
Yeah.
And we cannot do it all as neighbors. We got to work in conjunction with the police department. We got to work in conjunction with the administration of the city.
Yes.
But we need the city to work with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Burden. And
excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
I'm out of order, I know, but I want to say one thing. I have a daughter, Brenda Curry. She buys houses all over here, and she remodels those houses. And those are some of the beautiful homes that you ever want to see.
Okay.
She has one right here below her Metairie. She do a B&B with them. And those are some beautiful homes.
Yeah.
And she has some that she rents too. Those are some beautiful homes.
Right.
She don't put anybody in her houses.
And we have to get back to that, that very thing, and that's why Lieutenant Levine was speaking of earlier. Going to those homeowners, we got to nail them down.
Right.
We have to get to a point where they cannot obfuscate the laws. They cannot hide away and let their property diminish because our children is growing up around all the filth that they are creating. This is the kids' environment. This is their memories. This is everything they know. And we cannot have them growing up in this type of atmosphere. We are going after those people, even if I have to get in front of their property with a camera and said, hey, look, John Smith owns this property. He lives at this address. He needs to come and clean it up because our kids live here. And we're trying to have a better community. That's right. The other thing I wanted to say was Ann. She's a community leader. She stepped up and said, Councilman Hartley, can you ride with me? Yes, I can. Can you help me identify issues? Yes, I can. We have about 24 neighborhoods associations in Ward 5. I'm working with every one of them. You call me, we take a ride through, we identify abandoned properties, we identify broken water lines, we identify overflowing sewage, we identify drug houses, and she wanted the window rolled up so nobody see her. I'm like, cool, I understand that. Yeah. What we're doing is we create a situation in our village for our children to be successful, for them to see that there's a better way, for them to not have that lack of hope. So I applaud Ms. Ann and other community leaders, Ms. Gracie over there, Ms. Hilliger's in the back, community leader, just all over. These are the folks that count. I would trade them for a bunch of folks down at City Hall, okay? These are the folks that hold it together. Mr. Senator Norwood, another community leader. They are interested in protecting their village, and that's what it's going to take. And Ann, I certainly appreciate it. Look, if you see cars coming in and out of your neighborhood all hours of day and night, get some tag numbers. They don't get to bring their problems into our neighborhood. We're trying to make the best environment for our children. We don't want that drug house on our street. And they're out there shooting at night because they don't know how to operate an automatic weapon, trying to get a feel for it. We don't want none of that. We want those little picket fences and daisies and two little kids skipping down the street just like everybody else. That's who we are. And that's what we want. But we have to sit up and demand that. Okay? And not be afraid to go over and knock on our neighbor's door and say, hey, look, we're united. We're connected. Last year, ice storm, man, my neighbor came over, hey, my water ain't running. Okay, I got you, brother. We'll figure something out, even if it's putting a bucket under to get the water from the snow. We'll get this, but I was taking them water every time, every day. That's what neighbors do. That's what neighbors do. Sir, Supervisor Calhoun.
Creedell, I just wanted to let the community know that we are doing a few things as a county. We have the reentry program. That's where citizens coming home from incarceration. And we know that if you do not intercede, 70% will be back incarcerated, back in the criminal system. And if we intercede, we can reduce that to 30% for sure. Now that's what we are doing. Now, I need everybody to take my number down, 601. My cell, that's my cell number. You call me. If you have a person who's 18 years of age or older, and they need, and they have one felony, and they live in Hines County, we can take them into the program and train them with for character and all of those things. And that's important because those people coming back are influencing our young people. It's no question about it. So we are doing it as best we can. We need your help calling us and let us 601-622-3666. And we're going to continue that program indefinitely. And I can say, sooner or later we're going to get some grants and whatnot. That means we can add more to it. We can carry 60 right now. We want to have at least 150 each time we have a class.
Yes, sir.
But let's fill this 60 up right now, and you have to have a track record. You really have to have a good track record before you can get a grant. You have to be doing something in the community that's benefiting the community. I want to mention, I think that our parents need training because they were not trained by their parents. So we need a program on training parents how to raise their children. And that need to be looked at very strongly. Perhaps I can work with some organizations and get some funds to get that started. We gotta look at that part. And hopefully we get more funds for mental health. We know that's a real problem. Served in the legislature forever, and we kept cutting the mental health funds.
That's a problem.
They were in the wrong direction the whole time. Built mental health centers all over the state, never funded. So, but we need to push for that. I'm available to go to the legislature anytime with the community to make sure that we get all the funds that we deserve. I know we're having difficulty with the city, and you know the governor, lieutenant governor, and all of that. But we were there for a long time, and I can say I have a pretty good relationship with most of the people up there, and we will work to try to get some mental health funds into Hines County so that we can help more. We want to help the community, and we're going to continue to do that. As long as I'm serving on this board, I will be working to solve this crime problem, because youth, you know the young people is our future.
Yeah,
we don't have a future if
that's
we don't do that. Now, I'm working with a group out of Florida. Hopefully we can revitalize. I'm starting in South Jackson, and I want to move west through South Jackson with revitalizing. They are promising me some big things, and we hope that it come to fruition. And we'll be in your neighborhood sooner or later, but right now we're starting in South Jackson between Terry Road and the interstate, and between McDowell and Woody. That's the area. That's the area that's most needed right now, and we are going to be working to get that. Somebody had a question.
We thank you. I'm sorry. We're going to have to, I want to just make us all aware of time. We have some more questions, and we said we were going to 7:30. With your indulgence, if you can stay, we'll continue some of the discussions. One thing I want to add to what he said is, as a village, whenever someone's get incarcerated and they get a felony, the village loses. That person now can lose his right to vote. We lose that power as a village. Not only that, now they may have problems being employed. We lose the economic impact of that decision, of their life. We can't afford to lose that as a village. We need to make sure everybody is whole and healthy. And thank you for Supervisor Calhoun. I would like, one thing is for everyone to, if you're online and if you participate in the Zoom call, and if you are part of a program that can offer parental training, if you're a nonprofit, church group, whatever, and you offer parental training, please type something in the comment area so we can get it out to everyone that's here. So we can have a list on the Ward 5 Facebook page and website, so parents can have a place to go when they need training, because he is absolutely correct. Some parents don't know better because they just don't know. And then if they don't know, they're impacting a life of a child that may not know, and then they're just perpetuating a bad situation. So please, if you have a group out there that provides mentoring, training, anything to help our youth, summer employment, summer training, summer program, please add that information in, or if you're here, please write it down and give it to one of the folks here that's helping us. And I think that we have Miss Hilligus had her hand up first.
Hi, I'm Jan Hilligus. I have two things to offer. One is tutoring. If you have a child, grandchild, neighbor, whether it's for a third grade retest or whatever in reading, I'd be glad to work with a child of any age, really. The other thing is that I do family history research, and I need somebody to be coming up behind me to be taking it over one of these days. If you know someone who's interested in learning how to do family history research, I'd be glad to take on an intern, apprentice, whatever you want to call the person. Two things I want to mention. Some of you may have seen the same news report that I saw a day or two ago. I believe it was in conjunction with a program of young people at New Stage Theater. And there was a young woman in that program who, the sign on the screen said, was it Bailey APAC? And she said, they criticize us and make us feel small in school. Here in this program, they build us up. And that really hurt me to realize that that was happening in the school. Not that I didn't kind of know that that sort of had to be happening because of the problems that come up with the children just out of school. But that's one thing we got to deal with that within the school system. And one additional thing is that the apprenticeships, the parenting programs, and various things, those could all be part of year-round community schools. And I hope we'll really think about that. Those buildings don't need to be empty all summer and in the evenings either. We could do a lot more. We'd need probably more volunteers to step up and do one piece of it. But I think we can, that would be one thing that could make a big impact if we could get the JPS board and other people to take an interest in it.
Yes, ma'am. And that is one thing that's being considered. The Lieutenant Governor, Deborah Hosen, I met with him about 3 weeks ago. One thing he did entertain with is that he is pushing for this year-round school thing. And I just don't have enough information on it. But as soon as we get information, we'll provide it to you. We have a question here. And then what I would like to do, if you have a program out there, if you could spend 1 minute saying contact information, what your program does. 1 minute, we're going to do just a round robin. I know JPD has some type of mentoring program. Other church groups has programs. If you could just take 1 minute saying that. Yes, Miss Ann.
I just want to say one thing, that when you give out flowers, you have to give them out to everybody. And when we started these meetings in February of 2020, right before the pandemic, The biggest issue we had at that time was the flooding of this creek, and Hemingway being flooded, and Sylvan Glen, and the neighborhoods over here being flooded. I want to thank Supervisor Calhoun, the Board of Supervisors, and especially our supervisor, and our Senator Norwood, and our Councilman Hartley for getting together. Supervisor Calhoun, we thank you. We have not had a flooding in our neighborhood since you all stepped up and got things fixed for us. We want to thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it, and it takes a village. It takes a village. Yes, Ms. Georgia.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am so sorry I missed the meeting, but I was somewhere else. The topic that you're discussing is about children and what to do about the violence and all that. Well, working for the public school system, and it hasn't been easy but understandable. I know there's a lot going on in families and with children, but there is a saying that I will do to you what you let me. And I think Dr. Henderson was talking about that today on his show. I heard briefly about how we're going to take control of our community, because everyone else has control of their community and we support them. That is just modern day slavery. That's what it's all about. So with our children in the public school system, they need to see more of you, more adults like you, to walk into the school system just to be there. You need to see what's going on. They're not, the teachers are just held hostage. It's just more than they can handle. So they do whatever it takes to sustain themselves. So I think it's up on the community to rescue the teachers and find yourself, take out a time out of your day, lunchtime or whatever, and just go to the schools and let them see you.
Absolutely.
And behave like we should with them. Let them know that we love them.
Absolutely. Again, that village. If you want to make yourself really, really, if you're really, really down, go to one of our schools. See what this generation is receiving. Go to Clausell. Go to Jim Hill. Our students there got $20 million in scholarships, class of 2022. West Jackson. Okay? Don't believe the hype. We're strong over here. Go to our schools, see what we're producing. It's worth village stepping up, going out of your comfort zone, talking to your neighbor, improving your community. It's worth it. We got the success going on here. Thank you for that comment. Yes, sir. You had a comment.
Good evening. I just want to say, first of all, I want to thank Jackson police officers, the ones that are here right now. Y'all are doing what y'all can do, and I appreciate that, but there's a lot more that can be done. And I say this because I live right here in this area, and I don't know what can be done. I live right here on Matthews Avenue. This street out here, Ellis Avenue, that will soon be changed to Bobby Rush, through the night, it sounds like a drag strip. And it bothers me. If we had speed bumps out here, which I know there's no idea that's going to come to that, but this street out here all night long just about sounds like the Indianapolis 500. And not only the cars that are coming down through here, there are four-wheelers that's supposed to be in the woods, not on these streets out here. I don't know what it's going to take to stop it. I've almost got to the point to stand out here in front of my church that I belong to and get tag numbers. Would that do any good? I don't know. But something needs to be done, because what makes me afraid is that if somebody bags out of one of their driveways out here, they're going to get clobbered or either killed because of the traffic that flows down through here all night long. And I wish something could be done about it.
Let me tell you one thing that's going to happen. I'm sorry, were you finished? One thing that's going to happen is this. There's a good cop and there's a bad cop. This is the good cop. We're providing solutions. And right now the topic is, if we got into public works and crime, and we'll be here the rest of the night up until next week. Tonight, but one thing that's going to happen, sir, is this. We are aggressively working on a holding facility. That's going to, a lot of times, police pull one of these guys over misdemeanor, they can't take him anyplace. We're aggressively working on that, and I'm hoping that by the fall, we'll have a holding facility where police can actually grab the young man or a young lady and put them in that timeout and ruin their whole weekend before they get to see a judge. Yes, yes, and again, we could be tagging these streets all over. Arbor Vista, where I live, Robinson Road. I mean, we could be tagging these, and everybody has something similar. But know this, help is on the way, okay? And what we're going to do is when we pull these folks over, or if we see someone with a weapon, a young person, that bad cop is coming out. The bad cop is on his way, okay? But what we need to do as a village is embrace each other, talk to each other, understand each other, get everybody on that same page. But yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to try to, what he's going to say here to your speeding issue. I know it's an issue. I reported it to JPD. You know, we know that there's an issue. There was a guy up there shooting and stuff too, reported that, and there's some more bad actors right up here on this side of Hemingway Circle on this street here. So understood, sir. 1 minute, and then I want you to take a minute and talk about the program that you have for our youth. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tyner Harris, Deputy Chief of Patrol Operations. Lieutenant Levine, stand up for 1 minute, please. Last week, his topic or his subject was workable solution, right? This panel, you're part of the solution. We see that it worked. This is community policing. The Jackson Police Department, the Hinds County Sheriff Department, being a part of the community, and the community is a part of the police department. That's how we know where to go, what time to be there. Now, we try to be proactive versus reactive, so we ask for the time of occurrence. You've given that to us, okay? So now it's up to us to put a plan in place to address that. However, we will address it, and you will see some police present, okay? But there are other things happening throughout the city of Jackson, a lot of violent crime. But when we work together, we're here for the same common goal, whether we're in the black, whether we're in the brown, but even state capital has jurisdiction in this area. But when you come to every meeting, you're gonna see the police department, you're gonna see the sheriff department, and we're gonna put our best foot forward to reduce crime in the city of Jackson. When you call us, we come. I get called from Councilman Hartley, Ms. Bridges, whether it's blighted property, I'm coming myself. And you're gonna see me out there tomorrow. I'll be out tomorrow. We're gonna start a little initiative tomorrow. We know the 4th of July comes, you're gonna get a lot of shots fired calls coming in. And I think that's my 1 minute, but I'll give you my cell phone number, 601-502-6233. I'll repeat that, 601-502-6233. Tell you what we're doing at the Jackson Police Department Training Academy with the youth. Starting July the 11th through the 18th, ages 8 to 17 years of age. We're gonna have youth out there. The last time we took kids to the skating ring, Chip Muskelly let us came out to his ranch in Brandon. Kids got an opportunity to ride horses, go fishing. They was able to get out the inner city and really just see the country life, and they really, really enjoyed it. Tell you what else we have going on at the Jackson Police Department Training Academy. Conflict resolution classes. Every other Thursday. This Thursday is at the academy right now, 6:30. But what happened, the people who is intended for never seems to show up. But I would just want to thank the pastors, the teachers, and the public for coming out, because they get that knowledge and they bring it back out to the neighborhood. So what the police try to do, we try to do so many things outside of our scope of duty. We're mother figures, we're father figures, we're counselors, we're mentors, and in a split second, guess what? We have to make a life or death decision. And sometimes it's dealing with the mental illness. And we have very little training on that, CIT training, crisis intervention. So I want to thank the panel. You did an outstanding job. I really, really enjoyed it. So I hope you got my number, anything that we can do to assist you. And I really, really appreciate it. And you call me anytime we'll get together and you'll see those blue lights.
Your name and your telephone number one more time.
Deputy Chief Tiny Harris, T-I-N-Y, last name Harris, Harris. And Michelle got my number. She just tell you talk to Tiny. And she do have a strong passion. She used to be a school resource officer. She was an outstanding Jackson police officer. 601-502-6233.
We wear him out, and he's okay with it. Yes, sir.
I want to say one more thing.
Yes, sir.
To the gentleman over here, Mr. Foster, is that your name? And this program that you have going, I would love to get involved with that because
there you go.
This is something I'm interested in because I worked on heavy equipment for over 40 years. And I would like to get some young black men involved in working on heavy equipment. Because I look at the system now where I used to work, they're all little young white guys, but there are not any blacks in it. But if I can pull some of those in, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I want to get involved with you on that.
That's simply a member of our village saying, young people, come to me. I'm going to train you on something. We're going to pass this thing along.
Mr. Hartley.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Ellis Avenue.
The county is working with the city to get some cameras on Ellis Avenue and Capitol Street to help reduce crime plus the speeding that's going on.
Right.
And those cameras work.
There's a whole host of things that's happening in West Jackson. Hang on, folks. Hang on. You're going to see it. Capitol Street all the way down to McDowell. You're going to see it. There's going to be some changes. Sometimes our city is strapped or whatever's going on with them. We're going to step up. We're going to make this thing happen.
Council.
Okay. And
just one.
Council.
Go ahead, Ms. Georgia.
It behooves us to work smarter and not harder. We know how to do this. It's just that we're not doing it. Several years ago at Jackson State, a group of researchers came through with a plan that we didn't know about. They were trying to educate us on what was coming down the pipe. I don't remember correctly if it was Howard. It was one of those, it wasn't Howard, one of those Ivy League schools that were doing research, and they had filmed a group of white men talking about what they were going to do to the black community. And number one, the major thing that they were trying to do was to dismantle the public school system. And we are there now. They're dismantling it. That was the purpose. It was heartwarming to know that, and I've watched it down the line. That's what has happened. The system has dismantled the public school system, and we need to be aware of that. This is an external force that's upon us.
Right.
And to stop allowing all of this that's happening.
Yeah.
To us.
As a village, we have to stand on the gate, and we have to make sure that that things that we are watching out for folks. Yes, we're going to wrap this up. And again, if you have a program out there that's going to help our children, please write it down. Leave it for me somewhere here. We're getting a database. We want to help the children in our village. Yes, sir. That 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'd be very, very remiss if we did not mention this. We have 3 seasons each year. It's also in conjunction with the Jackson Police Academy. 601-960-1378. 601-960-1378. I'm one of the coaches for the Powell Tigers. We have teams 8U, which is 6, 7, and 8, and teams that are 9 and 10 basketball. We love to mentor these kids. Like Chief Joe Wade says, it's bigger than basketball. They've been doing it for 16 years. I've been doing it for 6 years. All my kids play. the program that Chief China Harris talked about, the summer program. We had one session, and guess what? From that session there, we end up getting more kids in the basketball program. And so from the second session that Chief Harris was talking about, guess what we're going to do? Get more kids from the basketball program. And we need volunteers for our summer program as well. So a lot of people look for the answer outside. You're dead wrong. You look in the mirror. You look inside first, and then you look outside. If you look outside first, you're dead wrong. Either you're part of the problem or the solution. Everybody here can be part of the solution. Everybody up here is giving you different tools and programs and different avenues to be a part of it. That program Chief Harris talked about, get your kids in there, and them kids came to play basketball for us. We're in the middle of the season now. This summer season will be over in July, but guess what? We're going to start another season in September, another season in January. Boys and girls. Boys and girls. I got 4 girls on my team right now. That's half my team. So you guys, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, okay? So 601-960-1378. Let's get these kids in and be a part of the solution. God bless. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I need for you to, sir, before you leave, write that information down and leave it on the table up here. If anyone else have a program, write it down, leave it on the table. New Horizon has a basketball program. Boys and Girls Club up here will teach your children to be chefs from a professional that's been on TV and everything. What's the gentleman's name? Mr. Wallace. Okay, they're endorsed by Doe's Food. There are opportunities around for our children. You don't have to grow up like me, where my mama took me and my brothers and told us to go to somebody's field and work, and that kept us out of trouble. And then it gave a little bit of money for our school clothes in the fall. But that was hard work, but hey, that's what we did. Now, we got to keep our kids busy and developing, and we got to protect them. I want to go one last comment from the panel, one at a time, one last parting comment at your discretion as to what to say.
All right, Open House Vision has a 833 GPS love number. I've had young people call that number that were contemplating suicide. I've had parents call that number that don't know what to do with their juvenile. I've had adults call that number, parents that need help. So that number again is 1-833 GPS love. It comes directly to my cell phone. Open House Vision is innovative resources and alternatives. Though we don't particularly do everything, we are connected to others that do. So if you are out of hope, or you have, I believe the proper word to say would be, someone gave you false hope that they were going to help you, please give us a call, or give one of the people here a call so we can connect you with the right people. That program I'm speaking of, the HVAC, the appliance repair, the plumbing, the engineer, all those different things, we have certifications for these young men that will literally pay them to come and participate at the school. They will get paid after they leave the particular program, and then we can help them find gainful employment on their own. So please contact me again, Benny Foster, Open House Vision. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Ms. Ingrid Cloy.
The only thing I would leave you guys with is just this. Don't give up on young people. Please don't give up on young people, because oftentimes they're doing their best. Don't give up on people. And the greatest lesson that I've learned in the last 10 years is we don't have to be right about everything. That you've got to let go of the need to be right if you really want to support people and children.
Thank you, Ms. Cloy. Mr. Dr. Harris.
All right.
Dr. Norris.
You got it right.
I'm sorry.
All right. I want to leave this. With DMN, we try our best to work with all the youth, all the families. Creedell Calhoun was talking about parent training. We do a lot of training and parent training in our agency. Again, it does take a village. All of us have to do our job because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And as the lady mentioned back there, the school system, it's a lot of work that needs to be done in there, in the school system. We need to be involved in the schools. We need to walk through the halls. We need to see what's going on. I was there. I know it's a lot going on. So, but we're here. That's all right.
I would leave with this. we all are here, and we all want the same thing, and it's to save our youth. I spoke on the coast, and like I said, if we look at it, the jail is starting at 13 now. So we got to take measures. And one of the measures we can take with everyone that's coming to these meetings, you all hear the resources. Even it's about learning the awareness. We got to learn how to distinguish what's a mental illness and what's a criminal. In order to do that, starting here, y'all link up with the resources to come to the training, to learn the awareness, the signs to look for the mental ill, because everybody's not mental ill. I just had that conversation today. It is some people that's just criminal. But we have to realize we have criminals and thugs raising criminal and thug-minded children. But at the end of the day, we got to do something to be the village to help them. So let us link up and be this village and start looking at resources, coming out the training. And like they always tell us in church, bring someone with you to the training. And then that's a start in here. Because we can't point fingers because we are the start. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. And in closing, Mr. Benny, if you have any talent, skills, or anything, get a hold of that man. He can point you in a direction of mentoring. It may be little, it may be big, whatever it is. I'm sorry.
Real quick, my fraternity brothers are here. Cap out the side for y'all talking. The individuals have something in the schools. We have two programs. We have the Kappa League, and because the schools, as you said, needed help, we now are one of 3 Kappa organizations in the United States that have what we call Kappa Gents. Because the principals saw what we were doing in the high school. We are now in the middle school. So there's no excuse for your young man or grandson who wants to get constructive mentoring not to be a part of Kappa Gents. Like they just said, we give you the resources. Call Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Go to our website, janews.com. Download the application. We'll send your child to Kappa Camp at Paul Quinn College for the summer. But the Kappa Gents are now in every, if I'm correct, we're in every middle school. And we expanded the Kappa League to every high school, even in the county. So if you want, somebody wanted some of the grandkids, yeah, those kids, we take them to Kappa. Okay. Oh, but now that's I deal with the AKAs and all that because of these, what they call it, protected children kind of thing. We kind of limited. But we deal with the young.
If you don't mind, I would love for you to write something down so we can post that and have
just again a whole list of things. What I would like for everyone to do is on your way out, take one of these sheets. It has a blue arrow at the top saying moving forward together, Ward 5. Go to one of your parents on your street, help them fill it out and get it back to us. It's a survey. It's a questionnaire. We ask, tell us something we can do to help protect your children. We want to go to the parents. We don't want it to seem like, well, we're putting additional responsibility, we're penalizing parents. No, the village is reaching out to parents and saying, how can we help? And that's what we're going to do. And by doing this, just look over the survey. By doing this, the village helping, we're gonna move forward. There are brighter days. There are brighter days. If I could I have Senator Norwood, sir? I want to thank our panelists. Come on, let's give it up one last time for our panelists and for the other folks that offered comments. Senator Norwood, sir, if you don't mind, could you dismiss us in a word of prayer?
what I ask you for